System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' Inner City Left.
This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Today is Thursday, January 29th. I am Amin TMK alongside Amoja, Lil Tanky Sumler. Amoja, hello. Happy Thursday. How are you doing? What's the word on the street? What are the people saying?
Snowed in the capital of the universe, man. Did you know? Did you know that DC is like? Remember how they used to have like universe theory, where they were almost right. You know what I'm saying? But DC certainly is. DC is absolutely the center of the universe. So I'm snowed in, center of the universe. I just want to share that scientific, political, objective fact.
Thing. None of us can really know the vastness of the universe, and it has a boundary either way. So I'm going to just say I'm the center of the universe.
I'm the center, yeah.
Even though I do think the Milky Way galaxy is like further way out. It's not even near the middle of the...
Yeah, we probably like boondocks and shit. Like, we can't find aliens because we like in the fucking hood and shit. And he's like, I don't fuck around in Milky Way shit, man. Fucking crazy
I
over
don't fuck
there.
with them. Yeah, shit crazy. Got a super black hole in the middle of it. Anyway, this is we're amateur astronomers, I guess, cosmologists. You want to talk about geopolitics, or should we call up Neil?
Let's do it.
Talk more. Okay.
Oh wow, my favorite scientist.
Yeah. So you remember that in Javier Milei, who is the president of Argentina, was given $40 billion bailout by the Trump administration, with the point being, or the step that had to complete first, is making sure that Milei will be re-elected as the president. Okay, so let's move on. We had that with Argentina. Let us move on with Iraq. Okay, so this is my president. Okay, this is Donald Trump. I don't support Donald Trump. I hate to keep reiterating this. It doesn't change the objective
reality that he is the president.
These people are like, oh, we hated Biden too. We talked about Biden too. I'm not orange man bad, and I'm also not pro-Trump. Okay, so leave me alone with that. I'm hearing. This is Donald Trump speaking, not me. I'm hearing the great country of Iraq might make a very bad choice by reinstalling Nayyab al-Maliki as prime minister. Last time I checked, Maliki was in power. The country descended into poverty, total chaos. That shouldn't be allowed to happen again. Because of his insane policies and ideologies, if elected, the United States of America will no longer help Iraq. If we are not there to help, Iraq has zero chance of success, prosperity, or for make Iraq great again. This kind of feels, to me, like one of them things where it's like tampering in other people's elections. And I am reminded of, and maybe you remember this, the whole idea of the Russiagate and how Russia had affected the elections in the United States so that Donald Trump would be elected, and liberals ran that, and Clinton still runs with that. And obviously there is no proof of it, of any kind. And then they switched to, it was Russian bots who were influencing people. I mean, come on now. Anyway, we are actually, in real life, kidnapping presidents, giving billions of dollars. So the presidents, or the leaders in charge of these foreign nations, are on our side and willing to be American puppets. And when the rest of the world, through democracy, decides they want to step away from the United States, and this isn't just Iraq, or we talked about the countries in Eastern Europe, that, now it's to be a bad idea. I wanted you to give me your thoughts on this, and
There's so many things there. So first off, even the language of reinstalling, right? Like, it's an overwhelming probability. So far, this man was the prime minister. That's true. He was the prime minister. He was elected, right? So once again, this Iraq is a democracy, at least a fledgling democracy. Um, this one was the prime minister back when George W. was the president. Can you think of any reasons why Iraq might not have been doing well during the George W. presidency, right? So the thing to remember is Nouri al-Maliki is not anti-American per se. He just happens to be a Shia Iraqi, right? So there's always the fear that a Shia prime minister will have too much of a tie to Iran, and that in and of itself makes them untrustworthy, right? It's important to remember, regardless as to how you may feel about the Ayatollah, he is like a religious leader. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to like the Dalai Lama to acknowledge he's a religious leader and people worship, and see this person as a holy man. That's the same thing with the Ayatollah. But simply because the Ayatollah is a very powerful person, the essentially the head of the Shia religion, right? The way the Pope is the head of the Catholic religion. The fact that Nouri al-Maliki practices Shia Islam makes the Americans uncomfortable, right? So it's not even him necessarily being anti-American. It's just simply they don't trust him because he's a Shia. As to the root causes of why Iraq wasn't doing well, they had just been destroyed by the United States. He was one of the very first prime ministers that they had after the removal of Saddam, and their economy was in total shock. Their industry was destroyed by the Americans, right? So the Americans kick you in the throat, and they're like, remember that time you was down? You wasn't doing good. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe your boot in my throat had something to do with me being on the ground. It's also important to acknowledge there was someone who became anti-American. That was Saddam Hussein. And what he did was he determined that the petrodollar should come to an end. He determined, right, for all the other things that he may or may not have done, this thing he definitely did, and it led to his death more than any other thing he did in his life. He decided that Iraqi oil shouldn't necessarily be sold in American dollars, right? So you can see where this continues to happen. As soon as, that's not far from what happened in Venezuela. You had Maduro trading Venezuelan oil in yuan, right? When you stop trading petroleum in dollars, they see that as illicit because the only way to sell has to be globally through dollars. Like, imagine the hubris of that position. But that is the official American position right now. If you're selling oil in anything other than dollars, essentially it's illicit. And if they have a way of confiscating it, they will. So Nouri al-Maliki, he's now the prime minister of an Iraq that had been destroyed by the Americans, right? Their gold had literally been stolen and seized by the Americans, right? And now, and this is what Trump is alluding to, all of the sovereign wealth of Iraq is held in New York City. It's held in Wall Street. It's held in American banks. And so he's not so subtly insinuating that if this man is elected, they will withhold the sovereign wealth of Iraq. That is incredible. This is what colonialism really is.
Speaking of democracy, democracy is incredibly important to America. All right. And even though, the Iraqis had an election, unfortunately, they picked the wrong person. And that's what elections are. Elections are about voting for the person that America wants to be the president. Let's not forget, in Egypt, they had to go through 2 presidents that they chose. Those choices were wrong. The real choice was General President Sisi. He's the general president, okay? And then let's not forget, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this gentleman coming soon, Al-Julani, now known as al-Shada, former deputy of ISIS. And he named himself president because that's how you're supposed to do it, man. That voting stuff, that's not democratic. And I just want to say that because this is the only democracy in the Middle East, Tanky. That is Israel, man. Said a lot of bad things about Israel in the past, all right? And the one thing they have is elections, you know, just like Ukraine got elections. So I don't hear our BB. This is BB right here.
Of course, I'm concerned and I said that I think we're in a very sensitive situation. And I think the last thing we need right now is elections. We'll have elections later on this year, but I think it's a mistake to have them now. And I hope that people understand that and act sensibly.
I want you to act sensibly, man. Democracy is about not having elections. So I
want you to understand that. He's looking at Zelensky, man, and Trump's going to do the same thing. Meanwhile, these same people who will say things like Nouri al-Maliki was, what did he say, appointed or installed or whatever the fuck, like, the Iraqis had their parliamentary elections in November, bro. Like, they just won. And what they don't like about Nouri al-Maliki, by the way, is they never want to see a group coalesce into something that is big. Nouri al-Maliki is backed by the Kurds in Iraq as well as the Shia. And they want to keep that Iraq as destabilized as possible. The Shiites against the Sunni against the Kurds against the Shia, right? So when you have someone like Nouri al-Maliki that's connecting now with two of the three, pyramid blocks, that's dangerous. They don't want to have anybody that can have universal appeal throughout the country because that person will then be able to resist, right, American encroachment further. So long as it's always this unstable pillar of either a Kurd is in or a Shiite is in or a Sunni is in, like there's 2/3 of the population against you. This dude has 2/3 of the population with him. And if he finds a way, right, to bring about, a governmental policy that somehow begins to reach disaffected Sunni Muslims in Iraq, now you have a man that will have legitimacy, right? It will be much harder to remove that man, through the normal tricks. And then we have Bibi Netanyahu, who's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. These elections. And people, again, non-critically repeat these kind of things. Iran just had elections. And they still say things like the Iranian regime. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of these guys are having elections, pretty quick elections. Like Iran had to assemble its elections like 60 days after its previous prime minister had a fatal helicopter accident, like on the way back from a trip to Azerbaijan, great Israeli ally. Look, I don't want to connect any dots. These are just facts as they exist, right? 60 days after that happens, Iran has to have snap elections. And, are the Americans going to say those were fake? Because the dude that would have been most favorable to them is the one that won. The biggest reformer in Iran won. And they're still calling it a regime. Like, this isn't one of the conservative, Shia guys who came up in the IRCG and is a hardcore, yes man for the Ayatollah. Like, this is a dude that literally is one of the most liberalized leaders in the entire Middle East. And it's still not fucking good enough.
Let's move on to this right here. This is a tweet, and we talked about this a little bit before. This is from some guy named David Van perspective, death toll in Iran, 50,000. Death toll in Gaza, 71,000. Death toll or casualties, 300,000. And 171,000 for Gaza. I don't know what the difference is there. But we've talked about the fixing of the numbers, the cooking of the books. This is a incredibly conservative estimate for the amount of people killed in Gaza. I know that the Israelis came out today and confirmed it was 70,000. So that, yeah, IDF accepts Gaza Health Ministry estimates of over 70,000 killed. So if they're admitting that 70,000 is killed, and we already know the West and Israel specifically do a world-class job of changing the narrative. We see this. Speaking of Ukraine, Ukraine's got all the same problems. They got 2 million wounded, dead, unable to. Yeah, go ahead.
To your point, the difference between fatalities and casualties is fatalities means you're dead, right? Whereas the casualties is more like you're no longer useful to the economy, right? Like your arms got blown off, or you're disabled physically, right? You're no longer essentially capable of adding to the GDP, for lack of a better word, right? So when you're trying to understand those numbers, now let's get to the elephant in the room. Who's verifying these numbers? Who's on the ground that had time to count all these bodies? And it buggers the mind. Third question. How was Iran able to accomplish this? Did they mobilize their entire army and just open fire on masses of people? Like, how can you trust anything that you've seen now that we know how good AI is? The next question. We haven't even been giving AI videos. We really haven't. I cannot explain to you how many people 50,000 is, how difficult it is it's difficult to kill 50,000 in a military operation. Russia barely kills 50,000 Ukrainians a month. Barely, with the best weapons in the world and a 700,000 man army pressing the entire line of contact. You just cannot believe these numbers. They're just not believable. What did they do? Did they call in the Air Force? Were they dropping bombs? Again, turning the internet off doesn't remove video. It just doesn't. There's still people that would have analog videos, film. There's still people that would have cell phones where you can record it. You know what I'm saying? The attacks in Israel got recorded. When the so-called 12-day war, Israel, one of the most technologically advanced countries in the world, that had a gag order on all of the videos for those missiles coming in. And yet and still, people are making TikTok videos back in the old days when you could do such things, right? Of all the missiles hitting Tel Aviv. In this contemporary world, you cannot stop this kind of footage. And yet, there is no verified footage on any of this stuff. But hey, it was on CNN. New York Times said it. They never lie. They don't have an agenda, right? It just goes to, once again, show the lack, we've outsourced critical thinking. You read it in the paper, so it's true. But that's just silly. That's foolish. And if you believe that in 3 years of near total war, if you think that Iran is able to destroy the internet and the Iranian military is able to turn off the internet in a place as big as Iran more effectively than Israel was able to do in Gaza, and yet we still have photos of bombs landing in Gaza. We have, you know what I'm saying? We have videos of hospitals blowing up in Gaza, but there's none of this in Iran. Guys, come on. It's just, keep it real. You can't even keep it realistic. I'm not saying something hasn't happened. Clearly something does. But at this point, it's so completely propagandized that there's no way you can believe any of the numbers you're getting one way or the other from either side. And realistically, this is the kind of thing that is going to take time. It takes time to know the truth about these things. I remember when the whole, we talked about this a couple of episodes ago, the whole Assad used chemical weapons, right? Everybody was like, no, now we have to do something, right? And it took 10 years for the truth to come out about that, 10 years.
As you know, liberals are against all wars except this one. And that the world. There's been this narrative I've been hearing, I know you've been hearing it as well, that people need to learn what's really going on in Israel. They're misinformed through that TikTok misinformation, disinformation campaign. Again, it's just real footage. When we have to, who uses AI the most? Well, that would be the West. United States, Israel, Ukraine. They're the ones that are constantly flagged for using AI. And that's because we go and talk about this when we speak about the Uyghurs and the so-called genocide experience in Xinjiang, which is not true. And one of the reasons we know is because the internet in Xinjiang is better than the internet that we got, because they're having a much higher quality of life than your average American. And there is 4K, 8K cameras, some of the best technology in the world there. And you can constantly see what's going on in Western China. It's just right there for you. And Iran is just interesting because it's the same thing. They turned the internet off for a few days, but internet was going before then. And as you remember, 3 years ago, I don't know if you remember this, was another one of those Iranian regime killed 20,000 people. And this was making its way around the internet. And we have to explain to people and talk about people, because this is their own racism and Islamophobia coming out. A citizen can't, a nation state would never do that and can't do that. You just kill 20,000 people in a day. It's not possible. And again, you would have what about those 20,000 people's families and all that stuff? This doesn't compute. And when Americans are so easily accepting of this propaganda, it reminds you of that racism, that, dissent against, prejudice against error, and all those other things, because that's just not how countries work.
Yeah, where are the funeral registries, right? How do you remove 50,000 bodies, right, quickly? Like, did you cremate them? There would be mountains of body. I'm not trying to be macabre. I'm just trying to be honest. 50,000, that's a football stadium. That's half a football stadium full of people. Those bodies would have to be accounted for. And they're not. I don't know. So...
it's absurd. That's what the propaganda. Let's not forget, we just saw the video. I should have uploaded it to show our listeners and our watchers, of the video of the guy who was like, look, if you Zionist in a good way, you can say it. But if you say Zionist in a bad way, you can't say it. They are policing every aspect of language. Think about this, man. Larry Ellison, one of the richest, I think the second richest man in the world, purchased TikTok just to destroy it, just to make sure people weren't talking about Palestine. There is a global effort, at least amongst the West, to remove information about Palestine. And even with all of their efforts, and then owning all the social media, all the major networks, people have seen across the world, even in the West, the atrocities that Israel has enacted upon Palestine. Of course, is not new. It did not start October 7th. I'm reading right now the 100 Years War on Palestine. So you pick that up if you want to gain more context. And then Syria, again, this is out. Assad, I don't care whether you like him or not because you don't know enough about him to like him. And it's irrelevant what you think because you're not in Syria.
What is like? That's
What is
a
like?
juvenile way of dealing with world leaders. And, I mean, it's so vibes, right? I like
It's
the
not
president.
American
I don't
Idol.
like the president, right?
It's not that NBA All-Star game. It's real spiel life. And regardless of, remember this. United States supports the Emiratis. They support the Saudis. And they
Kingdoms.
support
These are
the
kingdoms.
Hashemite
Are these
kingdom
regimes? Why is it like
of
the Saudi
Jordan,
regime?
where the
Right.
king speaks Arabic with a British accent. And this is what you want to bring to Iran? I mean, guys, I'm sure our listeners, they're savvy enough to understand this, but, you know, I just got to
return to that thing you showed with the whole Trump thing where it's like, make Iraq great again. Iraq was great before, like, the Greeks had even figured out letters. Like, what the fuck?
You want to
Iraq
talk about the
is
House of
one
Baghdad?
of the oldest, most fucking ancient, brilliant cultures. It's just, even as a black man, that's so goddamn offensive, bro. It's like hard to even.
Palestine,
Like
Syria,
Hammurabi, bro. Like what? the
Iraq,
fuck?
Russia, China, the oldest, most entrenched civilization in human history. The United States is doing everything they can to destabilize it and saying, hey, it was good back in the 70s or whatever. You know, oh, Iran before the revolution, something like that.
With
And
the
it's just a
Shah back
picture.
then.
And it's just a picture of the Sopranos. Did I show you that on Italian
Yeah.
news? They were like, this is a family before the Iranian Revolution. It was Sopranos. So anyway, everything's a lie, okay? Except, you know, obviously Inner City Left. And there are other publications, of course, other YouTube videos and podcasts, of course. But look, I'm only certain that I'm not an op. I'm fairly certain you're not an op. And I'm fairly certain that Keita is not an op. And our guests, I'm pretty sure aren't ops either. But I don't know. People send me all these other people and they're like, hey, check this person out. And then a year and a half later, they support Democrats. It's not hard to determine who is on the right side. Okay. As soon as you start trying to apologize for politics, as soon as you start trying to move towards an American Western narrative, you're in the wrong. Please leave that person alone. Bring it on over here to class consciousness. Bring it on over here to socialism. Okay. And remove yourself from the fantasy world of global neoliberal reform. Let's give a shout out to our podcast listeners. We're available everywhere you find podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of that good stuff. InnerCityLeft.com. Check us out. Labels, Foibles, Other American Sins, Lil Tanky's book of poetry available in the description. Inner City Left, Patreon.com/Inner City Left. We have 137 members, guys. That is freaking cool. That's freaking cool. And subscribe, hit the like button, comment for the algorithms. We are now past 800 subscribers. Let's get to that 1,000. That's what we're going to be working on this year, getting to 1,000 subscribers. Tanky, you have some final thoughts. What did we miss? Parting words.
I want to throw some quotes from this article from Responsible Statecraft. Okay, experts. Massive military buildup points to new U.S. strikes on Iran. You know, it's not just us saying it. It looks very close to like something major is about to happen, and I think this will be quite different than what happened with the so-called 12-day war because everybody's playing it different. The United States force posture is different. They're out of the Persian Gulf, right? They're right outside because they're expecting there will be a retaliation this time, and it won't be the restrained actions that we saw earlier. You know, there's less naval power, but it's very powerful naval assets. It's less, but the stuff that's there is extremely powerful. And let's not forget, CENTCOM has 40,000 American troops in the region. I think they're going for a decapitation strike, but what happens, you know, if it doesn't go the Venezuela way and now it's all in? What happens if you shoot and you miss? Because Iran has a lot of power to hurt us in different types of ways than we expect. Not like, they're going to rain missiles in America. No, but they can close the Straits of Hormuz. And if you make a move like that, petroleum will become unstable. And petroleum is the bedrock of all economies in the world. And that's just no one knows where that goes, you know? No one knows where that goes. It's a very dangerous gamble, and it looks like it's going to happen. It's essentially imminent.
Yeah, and of course we'll be covering it here on Inner City Left, as well as our Instagram at Inner City Left, and you know, I guess we're just gonna keep doing this thing, man, until they shut us down. But we're on the way, like I said, to get to 1,000 subscribers. And in general, I guess I got nothing else to say other than free Palestine. And stop with the free Iran and all that. That Iran is already free, man. Free Iran. Free Iran is going to be under any type of Western
imagination.
You know, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Free freaking Syria.
Bring the Shah back.
Free Egypt, man. You know, free Jordan from the freaking king. You know, so with the
checkmate, the king is dead.
Yeah, all right, I think that's plenty. For Amoja, Little Tanky Sumner, I'm Amin TMK. This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Peace.
System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' Inner City Left.